Hey guys, Stock Saturday, and it's been a nice week again. Very much thanks to gold and silver and sort of crypto a little bit. It's been all over the place, but I'm up 3.9% for the week, 29,000, which is pretty strong. Again, the S&P sort of very flat, minus 0.12%. So yeah, it's been sort of up and down for a little while now. And the Nasdaq, yeah, 0.082% for the day and 0.19% up for the past 5 days. I think it's been underperforming ever so slightly the S&P for a couple of weeks. So, yeah, ever so slightly up. But yeah, 3.9% up for the week. So very strong. You'll notice an even larger cash position here because I sold some options, which I will come back to. And yeah, so that obviously will be coming out soon. I will, well, about 40 odd of that will be coming out, and I might be buying some stuff. So yeah, look forward to that. And I have a new position, AB Limited. I think I mentioned them before. A sort of a bit of a bet on automation, sort of robotics. They sort of make a lot of components basically for robotics, whether that be sort of in factories, the sort of robotic arms and things that people are already using, or potentially in the future more autonomous walking bots and things. I do like us. Been wanting a sort of a picks and shovels buy on that, basically, not wanting to sort of bet on an individual company making the robots. I do like, just prefer picks and shovels stocks generally, really. Hence the TSMC. But yeah, there's sort of a little bit of change then. Broadcom had their earnings, which we'll come to, and that's sort of been very nice. So strong position in the portfolio now. TSMC doing okay, partly off the back of that, I expect. And yeah, the other stocks sort of bumbling around, really, which I'm not all that against because I do still want to increase these positions quite a bit as I sell the crypto and sort of potentially gold side. So, yeah, interesting. But let's have a look at some news. So we had the CleanSpark. Well, yeah, I was going to say it's that time of the month again. So we've got quite a lot of Bitcoin miner news. May not be doing these for all that much longer, depending on how some of the selling is going. Yeah, CleanSpark released their August update. They're up to 12,827 Bitcoin, and they grew their average hash rate by 1.4 exahash. I don't think they've actually grown exahash at all. It's 50 operational. It's just the average coming up, I think, because they added some last month. So that's maybe a little bit sort of playing with the numbers there. But yeah, 657 Bitcoin, pretty good number. And yeah, 16.07 joules per terahash efficiency. So pretty strong, almost at IREN's 15. They are selling, of course, pretty much everyone is selling now rather than sort of diluting and, trying to hold everything. So they sold 533 out of 657 for $60 million. Hopefully that means there's very little, if any, share dilution. So, yeah, pretty good. 1.03 gigawatts under contract as well, utilizing 808 megawatts of that. So it's not a huge number considering the stock price, and they've got basically no exposure to AI unless they were to convert. So yeah, they've always said they were pure play Bitcoin, and at the moment at least, that's not what people want. And with Bitcoin price where it is, that's not what's profitable. So moving on to Riot, still very quiet really, very little happening. Bitcoin produced 477, down from 484, because of difficulty increase mainly. Bitcoin held, well, yeah, because they sold 450 of that 477, so Bitcoin held is only ever so slightly up, 19,309. Still got some sort of convertible debt basically held against that, so yeah, bit of dilution in the future. Hash rate increased ever so slightly, deployed up from 35.5 to 36.4, operating up to 31.4. But the power credits, to be fair, middle of summer, this is where this really starts to be paying off. Last month, 13.9 million. This month, 16.1 million. I would have thought that is probably the strongest month of the year. So, yeah, probably come down from now. But don't mind 477 Bitcoin if you're earning 16 million just for not mining, basically. Brings all-in power cost down to 2.6 cents. So, a very profitable month. Expect Q3 should be a very strong financial quarter for them. I've noticed that pretty much all of the operational updates, the August ones, are sort of very lean this month. There's sort of not a lot of discussion about anything. It sort of pretty much finishes there. There's a 2-line sentence from Jason Les, basically saying all-time high, 48% increase over last year. No word at all about future targets, no word at all about AI customers. They've basically got their site sort of largely ready to go for sort of a partnered AI company, and there's just no discussion of it at all. CleanSpark's sort of pretty much ended there as well. Even Marathon, I sort of keep an eye on Marathons, and theirs was relatively quiet. But yeah, moving on, we got quite a lot of news from Hive. So I just sort of bundling all those together. They did release their Q1 2026 numbers recently, and yeah, there's sort of quite a lot in there. Their sort of Buzz HPC revenue, 4.8 million for the quarter, up 59.8%. So yeah, that's pretty good. He's becoming a reasonable amount of their operations, although they say they want to get to 100 million a year. So 4.8 million in a quarter is slow going to get there. They've been saying for quite a while they want to get to 100 million a year, and yeah, they've sort of put a lot of detail on what they are doing. And being a high-cost miner, obviously one of the highest-cost miners, the results themselves don't look particularly good at all with Bitcoin prices where they've been. Revenue of 45 million, and yeah, operation and maintenance, depreciation, coming to more than that just by itself. So yeah, gross operating margins, not great, and then some sort of obviously fake gain on the Bitcoin. So that brings it to 35 million net income, but I wouldn't call sort of a lot of this net income. If you just look at sort of operating profit, basically it is still negative. Costs at 28 million and depreciation at 22 million, that's 50 alone, and you've got 45 million of revenue. So then the sort of cash costs that come in here, share-based compensation and other bits and pieces, finance expense and tax and things. Yeah, you've got sort of a somewhat fake net profit, but they do need Bitcoin price to go up, basically more than sort of any of the other miners. So their other news was that they're announcing a deal with Bell Canada. They sort of seem to be going this self-managed rather than sort of having a partner come in. They just develop everything, run the GPUs themselves, and then get partners in to use them. But they're not going to be massive companies because it's not a massive cluster, if you like. It's not a big site. They were sort of talking about 7 megawatts, I think, before, which is fairly small numbers compared to what others are doing. IREN sort of finishing a 50 megawatt site, and that's only a small part of theirs. So, yeah, it's interesting. And they sort of seem to be going the sovereign route. They're saying they're one of Canada's biggest AI companies, or AI cloud providers. So, yeah, thought this was, good at least. Potential for more revenue, push them a little bit closer to that 100 million. And then, yeah, they increased to 16 exahash, and this isn't actually the August operational update. They haven't done that yet, but they did get to 18 exahash, which was their end of August target. So, yeah, they're hitting targets. To be fair, they're saying they want to get to 25 by Thanksgiving, which is 2.5 months away. So, yeah, to be fair, if Bitcoin is doing well, getting to 25 exahash would be pretty strong considering where the market cap is at the moment, and having a bit of AI on top. I think they're still underpriced for what they're doing. So what caused the big Broadcom boost? We sort of initially got about 15% gain in pre-market on the news. I think it sort of went up 10% about 10%-ish after the results, and then by the morning it was up about 15%, but market sort of took it a little bit back down again, and it sort of ended up about 10%. But yeah, it sort of seems very much more of the same, which is great, I suppose. More of a similar percentage gain as sort of last quarter and Q1, really. 15.9 billion in revenue. It's up 22% on this time last year. Net income, it was negative last year, partly because of, nearly all because of the acquisitions. So they do sort of keep reporting this non-GAAP net profit, which is up from 6.1 to 8.4 billion. And earnings per share the same, negative this time last year. Cash flow from operations 7.1 billion, up from 4.9. Very, very nice. And adjusted EBITDA 10.7, up from 8.2, which is 10,702 over 15,952. So 67% adjusted EBITDA, which I keep going back to. They said they wanted 50 billion for, I believe, this year in revenue, and they're doing nearly 16 in a quarter. So on for sort of 64 billion there compared to 64 billion annualized from this quarter, I suppose. Yeah, it's not quite 64 billion for this year, but still pretty strong. And they wanted 60% adjusted EBITDA, and they're getting 67%. So incredibly strong. And yeah, obviously since the acquisition, these even previous numbers include the acquisition now. So yeah, it's almost the same. 57% semiconductors, 43% infrastructure software, 1% change. I think it was the guidance that probably pushed them to such a gain as well. As nice as these results are, they're basically saying things aren't slowing down. Fourth quarter revenue estimated to be 17.4 billion, up from 15.9. Sort of quarter on quarter, that is crazy growth, and guiding 67% adjusted EBITDA as well. So revenue just keeps growing, it keeps flowing all the way through to profit, and yeah, they're saying no end in sight. So dividend of 59 cents, which I'm not all that bothered about. I think I would rather they sort of, which they seem to be focused on paying down the debt. They're looking at their adjustments. They obviously always do quite a lot of adjustments to get to, 4.1 billion compared to 8.4 billion non-GAAP net profit. And yeah, 2.02 billion of that is amortization of intangible assets, so digesting the VMware acquisition, and then so I would count that. I would, to be fair, add that back into net profit, so it gives you about 6.17 billion. And then some other stuff that I wouldn't take out really, stock-based compensation. It is an expense. I don't really see a reason to remove that. It's going to be ongoing. It's not something that sort of is temporary while the acquisition is happening. That is all of stock-based compensation. So it's dilution or cash expense, basically, whichever way you see it, just maybe not quite now. Restructuring and other charges, I suppose you could, remove that as well with the amortization costs, and then, some smaller bits and pieces. Gain on sale of a business is a positive that gets knocked off, and tax. So yeah, maybe sort of, as I say, 6.62, 6.2 billion is pretty solid. Adjusted EBITDA, there's sort of even more stuff that they knock off, of course. Income tax and depreciation and things. I'd prefer to sort of see my personal adjusted net profit. And balance sheet is sort of improving, maybe not as quick as I was hoping, but it is improving compared to November the 3rd, so 3 quarters ago. Cash up 1.4 billion to 10.7, pretty good. Accounts receivable and inventories and things all up, other current assets, but that's sort of temporary stuff. I tend to put more focus on cash. Goodwill, practically the same, but intangible assets sort of coming down as they sort of work through what they actually own. I was sort of wondering if some of that has gone into, things like other current assets. It's now no longer intangible, but sort of over 6 billion of intangible assets down. And then, liabilities, short-term debt increased ever so slightly, but long-term debt down. What is that, 3.5 billion, and other long-term liabilities down 2 billion as well. So that's pretty good. Overall, sort of 5.5 billion down in total liabilities is pretty solid. Starting to sort of digest things a little bit more, although that is, in 3 quarters. It's not sort of quarter on quarter reduction. So 5 billion down in 3 quarters worth. That's a little bit slower, as I say, than I would like, but still very, very strong, of course. And you can see, certainly with that guidance, basically saying that, things are carrying on nicely. I can see why they went up. I've been sort of considering maybe taking a little bit of profit off. It sort of if Fed opened sort of 15% up as pre-market was showing, or maybe even popped a little bit more, I probably would have sold a little bit. I held off, but we'll see what this coming week brings. It's sitting at like 700% up. It's sort of by far the biggest non-crypto and gold stock I have, and it's sort of, I think they're at 40 times 2026 projected earnings now, which, they're pricing in a hell of a lot of this gain now and just sort of expecting it. So I think not selling the whole lot, obviously, but maybe 10 to 20% profit take on maybe in the next week if things carry on. So looking at economic news, Monday was a bank holiday in the US, so not a lot there. A few sort of bits and pieces from the UK and EU. You had provisional inflation for the EU for August, and it's broadly on expectations. 2.1% headline and 2.3% core, which was the same as last month. They expected it to drop a little, but 2.3% is well under, pretty much the rest of the world, or the rest of the developed world. US got some PMI numbers as well. Manufacturing PMI from the S&P 53, not the very much different it seems to the ISM manufacturing PMI 48.7. So yeah, obviously 50 is the sort of neutral. So one side saying good, one side saying not so good. A little bit strange, surveying different people, I guess. Yeah, got the and you started to get some fairly poor US job numbers. So the JOLTS job openings down to 7.18 million. I think it's sort of seen as, if there's less jobs advertised, then you're not going to get the sort of inflation coming from, too many jobs and not enough people to fill them. So the companies start increasing salaries and things, and increasing their offer to attract sort of those fewer people. If you have more jobs than people, then the people start sort of lowering their or if you have more fewer jobs than people, then the people start sort of lowering their expectations. And then Thursday you had ADP non-farm payrolls, 54,000. Last month's, to be fair, was revised up ever so slightly. It was expected to drop, and it dropped quite a lot. So that's not great. Jobless claims sort of pretty much on point. And then you had the ISM non-manufacturing PMI, so the sort of overall number for the US services economy, which is the biggest part of the US, of course, 52, up from 50.1, and sort of quite a bit higher than expected. So that suggests a general strong growing US economy. Although then you did get Friday the non-farm payrolls employment number at 22,000, down from 79,000, which was revised up slightly, but this month was expected to be 75, and it was 22. And you also had the June number revised down. So last month, the June number, which was initially 147,000 jobs, was revised down to I think 14,000, which sort of partly caused that, and the May number caused Trump to sack the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I think. So that got revised down to 14, and this month it got revised down again. The June number got revised down again to minus 13,000, it looks like. So initially 147,000, which is, you could say, a strong month, and sort of possibly, adding to calls for a rate hike, is now minus 13,000, which is sort of, you would say pretty strong calls for a cut. So I can sort of see Trump's point, like how is the Fed supposed to make their decision if you're getting these sort of numbers absolutely all over the place? But yeah, not great. We did have a little bit of UK retail sales as well, ever so slightly higher than expected, but nothing sort of huge to see there. So private non-farm payrolls, 38,000. So I guess government is negative if private is higher than the total. And that was sort of revised, last month was revised down, so it's basically all not looking ideal. Unemployment rate rose to 4.3, which is sort of fairly slow rise, but the U6 unemployment rate, which sort of includes a lot of people, like people who have a part-time job, but say that they want a full-time job, they've just taken a part-time job because that's all they can get. They're included in this number, and sort of various other people, categorized as not perfect, basically employed maybe, but not perfect. That is up to 8.1%, and it's been rising sort of for the last 2 years, really. I think it was 6.5% 2 years ago. So, yeah, that is not great. 8.1% of people sort of not fully employed as they would like. So basically, it's looking like the September rate cut is now nailed on, and people are talking about sort of October and December already. I think it's October, and yeah, sort of another one then, possibly another one in December. But we'll see what I think that's next week. We've got inflation and then the FOMC. So see what comes of that. Portfolio-wise, Coeur mining, you can see, is completely dominating the ISA now. 67,000. That's very, very strong. I didn't take any profit this week. Partly, I don't know. Probably should have, really. It's it's becoming quite large with that and the options as well. Clean Spark down to 38,000. Not looking ideal. Fresnel though, £21. It's pushing almost 200% gain. So similarly, thinking of maybe taking a little bit of profit. It's sort of pushing towards where I would see as pretty fair value now. So similarly with Coeur mining, sort of the only real noticeable gain I can see coming from them would be a significant rise in the silver price. I don't see it as sort of undervalued becoming fair value anymore. But I do still think we've got a decent move on gold and silver sort of into the end of the year. But I am going to be looking at possibly taking profit on Coeur and Fresnel. Equinox Gold though has been sort of rising significantly, 9% on Friday. Is now 109% in the green, but I still think they're quite undervalued for what they're doing. You sort of compare them to, I mean, even Coeur mining and certainly people like Pan American Silver. I would say they're sort of fairly undervalued for what they're doing. They sort of need a couple of quarters of good results and sort of people to give them a little bit of love again. IREN 26.15. It was sort of quite a bit higher earlier in the week, and sort of in this portfolio, to be fair, it's a relatively small position compared to the others. It's the option side where it's bigger. Pan American and KGHM sort of not really moving a huge amount, sort of trickling up on the silver price. KGHM not really getting a huge amount of love for that at all. That sort of tends to follow copper. And yeah, the option side, so there has been a bit of change. I sold 40 IREN contracts down from 300 to 260 on the, I think it was Tuesday spike. Sort of rocketed up IREN to $29, I think. And yeah, after the American bank holiday, and I thought, yeah, that's quite a lot, and it seems to have been correct. It's sort of come down since, and we'll have to see sort of where it goes from here. And it, completely sort of dominating my total portfolio, sort of whatever it is, 180,000, including the ISA position. That is just a lot, and being sort of over 20x up. It's sort of selling a little bit less based on fundamentals and maybe more just on sort of portfolio rebalancing and taking profit. But I do still think there's a reasonable way to go on IREN. They've sort of potentially got an AI deal, and Bitcoin's at sort of 110,000. So if that were to rise into the end of the year, I'm sure it would follow at a reasonable amount. Part of me still getting sort of nervous though, thinking about the 2021 cycle. Sort of posted in the Discord. You had Hive, Riot, and Argo Blockchain sort of pretty much all topped in the same week in mid-February when Bitcoin was $50,000, and it sort of made a slightly higher high when Bitcoin actually a slightly lower high, sorry. When Bitcoin actually topped at sort of $64,000 in May, and then an even lower high when Bitcoin had its sort of 2021 all-time high in November. The miners had already topped back in February, so there is potential that IREN and sort of, well, hopefully not Hive, may have sort of, maybe in a topping process now, and as Bitcoin goes up, they may sort of not get all that much higher, but yeah, I still think they've got a reasonable way to go. Coeur mining obviously increasing with their price increasing. The options are looking extremely frothy now, almost 20x up. I probably will be taking a bit more profit off these, just sort of incrementally as we go. Drop down to sort of 55 contracts or something. Keep the a reasonable amount of the position for the silver move that I hope is coming. Hive is sort of in a little bit of a precarious position. January is a long way to go. Certainly a long way to go for my $10 strike options. The stock's down to sort of 270 now. So, yeah. Equinox, I haven't sort of reordered these. Equinox is now by far the second biggest position. 161% gain. This was sort of negative just a month or two ago. So, yeah, that's really doing well. But as I say, still think that's got a lot more room to move. And yeah, the smaller positions, Riot sort of right the way down again. Himax has increased slightly, and Cypher has barely moved. And £74 in CleanSpark. I actually think that has potential to do well. It's sort of 2 months to go. If Bitcoin sort of starts to rocket up, sort of by late October time, sort of early November. CleanSpark's at like $9.70 or something. These are $20 strikes. I think it could easily get to $20 on a sort of decent Bitcoin spike, but we'll see. Just a tiny bit of cash as well, because I've withdrawn all of that to put into Trading212. There is possibility I'll sort of be reinvesting some of this profit into stocks in Interactive Brokers, but I haven't sort of decided entirely what I want to do yet. The fees are a bit higher on Interactive Brokers, of course. If there's something maybe I can't get in Trading212, I sort of tend to buy in here, like KGHM. But we'll see. So leave your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.